What's up, geeks and gamers? My name is Draymond, and welcome to Thorium Gaming. For this week's Wednesday one-off, since I am unfortunately on my own again, well, it happens, everybody's got things to do now and then, we're going to be sitting down to play some City Skylines. So, it's kind of like SimCity, only different. It was something I was really hoping that SimCity could be, and at the same time, it's its own unique thing. It's a lot of fun and a little weird at the same time. So we're going to actually play, just drop my DPI down just a little bit, just making things a little awkward. We're going to play one of the stock maps that's in here. There are, of course, colder maps, but they involve some other stuff that comes with some of the DLC packs. So we're going to go to Green Plains. Wow, I can talk today, I swear. And we'll leave it as Rockfield, because I kind of like that. Reminds me of the Flintstones. Does not take too long to load, all things considered. I'm running a fairly decent system, so the experience may vary from game to game, depending on your own physical hardware setups. You know how it goes. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to pause the gameplay. And the starter tips are in there. I have something stuck on my hand. There we go. So you'll notice we start off with a fairly small area, all things considered. WASDA and Q&E, of course, do all your rotation and everything. And yes, I know we need to build some roads. So all your primary traffic is pretty much going to come in across this little highway intersection here. But roads are actually one of the few things that is unique about this particular setup. You'll notice the little check marks that keep appearing next to the roads. That's the actual buildable space. It's a little different than your typical SimCity game, but it's good in its own way. So let's get ourselves a power plant. The area around it, that circular area, is the amount of noise pollution that it will generate. And we'll extend our power lines down here. So just like SimCity, you have zones. But unlike SimCity, you have a little bit more control over how those zones interact. So now we've got one thoroughfare, and you can rename all the roads and everything in here. Let's set up a residential zone. Extend that power line. Yeah, extends right through, so it'll get power. Now the only other thing that we are missing is water. So we're actually going to set up a water tower a little bit outside the area of our citizens, and then we are going to run some water pipes down. So with water and power, the people will be happy and will start to move in. So let's start it up, see how it goes. Because all the demand right now is for civilian infrastructure. We're not going to get very far in the playthrough because it takes hours and hours of time to actually sit down and do things. But we'll get a little ways in. The big thing I wanted to talk about this week is the stupid Tide Pod challenge that's out there. And the fact that people are covering it in stupid ways. I'm normally not one to politicize anything or go off the rails or anything like that, but by bringing more attention to this, all you're doing is allowing young, impressionable people to continue to make stupid life choices. All of these drinks, the memes, all the stuff that's coming out about how stupid the Tide Pod challenge is actually adding to the problem. You need to stop it. And there's a big reason for that. And I will get to that in just a second here. We're going to extend a sewer pipe so we can actually get rid of all the wastewater, which is something unique to this particular game. Like SimCity, we do have to get some power to it though. There we go. So the reason I'm saying this is by bringing more attention to it, focusing on it, you might be thinking, oh, we're just getting a laugh out of it, it's not that big a deal, all this sort of stuff. It actually is a little bit of a big deal. By focusing on it, you're contributing to it. Just like any other situation. Let's use the marquee tool so we can select exactly what we want for power. Put some additional water pipes in. And it's a little disjointed while I'm trying to talk about the game and this at the same time. But it needs to be said, like, all you guys are doing by drawing more attention to it, these shots, the donuts with the Tide Pod, colorings to them, all that sort of stuff, all you're ending up doing is making it easier and easier for people who do not have as much common sense as anyone else to continue to do stupid things. You might think that it's just a funny joke and that you can laugh it off, and then it's not going to go anywhere. Unfortunately, you're wrong. By adding to the problem, all you're doing is literally adding to the problem. So, you can never get anywhere asking the internet to do anything, but just use your common sense, guys. Like, is the meme worth it? Is 10 seconds of laughter for a few people worth someone's life? Is it worth it? I really, really don't think it is. And I'm not just speaking about this for people who are thinking, oh, I'm doing it for a funny joke, all this sort of stuff. I'm speaking more in line as an uncle and trying to be a grown-up about things. I would hate for one of my nieces or my nephews to take this on faith that it's not something completely asininely stupid. They're young. I mean, the oldest is just entering her teens now. The rest of them are all young kids, and if they see this online, because kids are more and more being focused online now, they might think it's a joke. They might think it's something cool to do. They might think it's funny. I just don't think that it's anyone's right to be hazardous like that. Yeah, rights and all this sort of stuff. It's kind of a harsh word to use, and it may be not the correct word, but at the same time, let's face it, guys, it's stupid. And how many times have you done something stupid that you regretted? Now, how would you feel if that stupid thing cost you your life? But that's going to be the end of me preaching and ranting and raving for this week. I just had to get it out there because, well, I'm absolutely against it, and I hate the fact that this has become something that we have to talk about in this day and age because people are lacking common sense. So, really, just stop being stupid and stop promoting this stuff. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So now, as you've seen, we've created a small industrial zone, and that's going to work up into products and stuff that our city can put out. We are still pretty down there as far as money goes. But there is a unique thing that gets added in just a little bit here that we'll get to momentarily. Hoping I can remember how to start this game properly. So if we speed it up a little bit, you'll notice that these guys get up a little bit more. And we'll extend our water pipes just a little bit so that it can supply all of that. Just like SimCity, you need water and power to make things grow effectively, but unlike SimCity, you only get access to certain things as you level up. Normally you could create the high density and low density stuff way earlier on. In this, you actually have to build up to them, and the focus is more on families. So I've got a couple of mods, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but a couple of content pieces at least that make it so it randomizes the age, because there was a problem with this game when it first came out, and that was death waves. basically anytime you built a residential zone, you'd have to build slowly going up. Otherwise, a large portion of your population would just die off out of nowhere. And then you would be overrun with a lot of bodies, because you have to take care of that in this, which is unique to this compared to the Sin series. Can't really talk today. But at the same time, you also have to worry about the people being employed. And you have to worry about their education levels. The early part of the game is pretty simple. As you can see, we're almost into the black as far as our funds go. There we go. And it's calculated per week instead of per month. So each one of these represents a day going by. And this is how much we will make in a week. And they have their, I think it's called Twitter? I don't know. It's a Twitter ripoff. It's kind of entertaining. But there we go. We've actually leveled up once. So we've reached a population of 500. We get new features for taxes and loans. We can now deal with garbage, healthcare, and education. And it gives us 3 new buildings to play around with. And thankfully, after you level up, it also slows time back down. And one of the things I always like to do is to reduce our power output for both day and night off the bat. There's a reason for this. It saves us a lot of money, and this produces way more power than we need. If we go into the info view up at the top here, we can look at our power. And we actually have to boost it back up now because I'm a little bit silly. But we only need 16 megawatt hours per month. We don't need the full, I think it's 200. So let's bump these back up to 65 and leave them there. And that should balance everything out as far as we need. Yes, now we're producing 17, we only consume 15, but as we go along we can slowly build that up. As you can see, each individual car comes off the highway, comes into our streets. But here's where this game very much differs from the SimCity series. If we go into traffic routes, which is this bottom right-hand side here, we can go to junctions. We can actually control the stop signs and everything. So we're going to set these to actual stop signs and make the north-south roads thoroughfares, except where they terminate on a crossroad like that. So by doing that, traffic flow will actually be better off than just letting it sit there nominally. And that would be Agnew saying hello, but unfortunately right now I'm in the middle of recording, brother, so I'm just going to have to kind of ignore you. Sorry. So it's a nice little city, and the cool thing too is each one of these buildings, just like in SimCity, is different, but you can rename everything in this game. You can rename a company, you can rename your power plants, you can rename your schools if you want. But speaking of schools, let's create a little side street here. Just one more out. And that is one thing I do absolutely love, is these little boxes to show you how far out a street will go. Kind of snaps to the grid, and it's interesting in that form. But we'll get into that a little bit more later. And we want to create ourselves an elementary school. So we'll place it right there. Makes everybody around it happy, and the education level will start to go up as we go along. Excuse me. And as you can see, we are starting to have garbage issues. So let's go over into the dirty part of town where all of our heavy industry is. I'll extend this out just a bit. Can't go outside of our map borders, but those will be expanded as we go along too, as you level up. And let's throw down a garbage dump. Now it'll send out garbage trucks that you can actually watch right there. And it'll go around and collect all the garbage and take it back to the garbage dump. Later on you'll get incinerators and other cool stuff that allows you to take care of it a little bit better. But let's look into healthcare now too. We're still making a fair amount of money. So let's take a medical clinic, put it right there. Raise all the happiness and the health of all of our people around there, and they will be less inclined to die suddenly. And we do have a little bit more demand for some commercial, so let's fill up those zones there. And as it builds up, we are now starting to suffer on power. So let's go in and just raise this up to 75%. It's a little bit more management than a SimCity game in a lot of ways. It does take a little bit more conscious effort to think about certain things. And you do have to worry about noise pollution and air pollution. It all becomes a lot more relevant in this than in, say, a SimCity game. And yes, the conclusion and comparison to SimCity is always relevant when you're looking at these city builders, because SimCity 4 was the premier, like the iconic city builder game. And you can't really get around the comparison too much, because, let's face it, it was awesome. And I still have a copy of it running around here somewhere. But this game does encourage you to build up more gradually than going hog wild and building like you did in other versions, other games. I'll try to hold back the comparison. And you do have to worry about slow integration of education, healthcare, all that sort of stuff. And even your transport systems in and out of the city. If we go into the traffic view, which is one of them, you can see this intersection's pretty heavily done up, but that's because it's our only access to in and out of the city, which makes sense because it's our only access in and out of the city. So anything coming off the highway or onto the highway, gotta come through here. But even at the noise pollution, downtown business core and the industrial sector are heavy on noise pollution, and the residential zones have a little bit of noise, but that's mostly caused by the garbage trucks. Takes a little bit to work up to anything. We are currently working towards a worthy village, which will allow us to buy another parcel of land, expand our city, and we'll get access to the district's policies, second loan. All this stuff is awesome. And it allows us to do things like agricultural specialization. I don't know if we can actually see the natural resources in an area right now. We can't. But when you can, there are specialized resources throughout the maps that you play on. Forestry, agriculture, oil, ore, and there's one other, and I can't remember offhand. I think that might be it, but it could be others. I think there's just 4. Maybe? 5? Anyway, there's a lot of natural resources, and you can set up districts to specifically go for them. And later on, with your commercial sectors, you can set them up to cater to tourists, you can set them up to cater to nightlife activities and party time, and you can set them as regular businesses like we've got here. And then there is another form of businesses out there, which is the office buildings. But they come in later, and they're actually tied to the industrial style stuff. They will be in the same meter as this one, which threw me for a loop the first time. It took me a while to actually start building a bunch of offices, because I thought, I don't need industrial. I'm all the way, I'm getting towards clean energy and clean air, all that sort of stuff, and I don't want any dirty industry clogging up the center of my city. And then I realized it was offices too. So get your normal laugh in there for me being silly yet again. Let's see if we can extend this road just a little bit. Now, one of the things I do really like is that you don't have to make entirely straight roads. All of these options down here allow you to do some really neat things. So if we click here and go there, we can create a curved road. And it curved with the natural tendencies, and it will keep that curve as you go through. And you can set this up in a bunch of ways. You can do freeform roads, you can do curves, you can raise or decrease the elevation, you can create tunnels, obviously you can create bridges, but it all feeds into itself. Well, let's just double check that our water is going everywhere, and we are lacking a little bit of power, so let's bump this up to 85% overall funding. And that should take care of the power issues for there, especially since we're going to go in and drop in some more light residential zones. They do build up. Now, one cool addition to this franchise as opposed to others is your buildings will actually level up over time. They can go from level 1 to level 3, and as they do, their income is better. Everything they do is essentially better, so you get more families, other things like that. When it comes to businesses, they'll make more tax revenue. The industrial sector will produce more goods, and it is partially based off of their workers and all of that sort of stuff. So having uneducated workers, generally speaking, is the worst out of them. As your citizens start educating, I was about to call them Sims again, start getting educated, they perform better and help level up the building, which in turn gives you more tax income. So we're saying that our city needs more power, and I'm guessing just if we bump this up to 100% now, you can go above 100% extra funding. It's like, well, you have a couple of Homer Simpsons sitting in the power plant doing something. That's how I like to imagine it anyway. Not probably the right or correct thing to do, but it's how I think about it. So our landfill is only 4% full, which is a good thing. These will eventually fill up and can't be used anymore. So you'll need incinerators. And we just got the Worthy Village. So, these districts, you create them essentially with a drag tool like this. We're going to create 3 off the bat. There we go. And we don't really have any specializations right now that we can really use. You have farming and you have forestry, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Let's get out of the district menu. So if you click on the name, you can actually go in and change them. Let's call this Reactor Hills. Going with the whole Thorium theme. I could have capitalized the H, but I didn't. Uranium Park. And we'll call this Fallout Indie. Just for laughs. But that should also allow us to see the natural resources. So as we zoom out, blue is the ore, fertile land is in yellow, green, if I can find any green, there's a little bit in here, it's really faded and pale. That's forestry, and the black is oil. So when you get over there, you can actually specialize the resources in that area to specifically do that sort of thing. So if we had some industry area over here, we could create a district and set that district to agriculture, and you would see a whole bunch of farm style buildings. And those are actually used to make certain buildings later on, which are in the unique buildings tab. I can talk today, I swear. The cool thing is when you unlock one of these in a game, it carries over to your other games. So if you go into a small starter town and say get hit by a meteor, which is exactly what happened in this situation, I can now build a meteor park. It creates a little bit of noise pollution, costs a little bit of money to upkeep, costs 10 grand to actually put out there, but it brings in tourists, uses a little bit of water, a little bit of electricity, but it brings in tourists and visitors from other cities, which really helps. And you also do get policies you can use later on. Power usage, water usage, smoke detector programs, that sort of stuff. So this will cost us 5 credits a month. We're just going to call them credits because I don't know exactly what they are. But it reduces the risk of fire, which is always a good thing. So we'll do that citywide. But on that note, if you see the risk of fire all around, let's put down a small fire station right there. That should hit the most amount of area. And it does spread out from it. As for police, let's take a look at what our crime looks like. If we can take a look at what our crime looks like. There's not really any crime in our small little town. But if we're going to keep it that way, let's put down a police station right there. That should work. We're not going to be going freeform with everything all the time. I have apparently clicked something on my mouse that allows me to dezone places. It is a pretty looking game. Oh, it looks like we need some water that way, so let's just extend that out so we don't need to worry about it, and connect with our pipes there. There's a little bit of overlap, but it doesn't really matter. It is a very pretty looking game. Oops, we are still in freeform. I just want regular roads. There we go. And the amount of detail that's actually in the game, you can create paths for your pedestrians and stuff too, which is really awesome. The cars will pull off to the side of the road, they'll park inside the different businesses and everything that goes on, they'll take off from those, they'll drive around. I haven't yet found a way to put your own personalized characters into the game. I don't exactly know if it exists. It'd be cool if it did. And let's just extend this water pipe out. And toss down some more residential. Get more people in, because we actually went in red for money again. It's a careful, balanced game, but if you're playing this type of game anyway, well, it's kind of what you came for. It's a lot of management. It's kind of cool what you can do. And we'll be creating some more curves and other things as we go along. Though we won't get too much further into the game. Wednesday one-offs are supposed to be more about being a little bit goofy as opposed to anything else. And we have a power line that's in the way right here, but I don't really want to cancel building that road, so let's go to the freeform tool. Just curve around that power line. Not exactly the prettiest way to do it, but it works. In one of my other playthroughs, I have some residential zones that are definitely the trashy section of town. They're right underneath an overpass for a highway. There are other service buildings and everything too. You can build disaster detection, radars, space radars against meteors. There are a ton of disaster types in this game. But let's go in and look at the buy new land. We could, if we had the money for it, buy one of these sections out. The cool thing is you still have access to your information graphics while you're doing this. So you can see, well, let's say we wanted to go with a mining sector. We could probably buy here and start mining in ore. But you have to build or buy adjacent. So if we wanted to get over to this oil, we'd have to go up one and across two, or across one, up two, etc., etc., etc. You get the point. And we're back in the black. Now I'm thinking of AC/DC. Great. Way to go, Dre. Confuse yourself. Let's see if we can find ourselves a leveled up building. Outside connections. One of these is your building level. I swear. Could have sworn it was. Might be one of the ones that we have not unlocked yet. That is the one frustration I have with the game, is that all of this starts locked, so you can't actually go into the infograph until you have access to it. Be nice for the planning aspect of it. Just a little unfortunate in this case. But while I'm thinking about it, because I'm always thinking about it, let's make sure that all of these roads are set up so that we don't block our traffic flow. No, I don't want to click on that house. I want to click on the stop sign. There we go. And you can put on full stop lights and all that sort of stuff, which does make a lot of sense if you have a busy downtown core or something of the like. But stop signs work for the early part of the game before you really get into the more complex road systems and all of that. I've been playing on fast mostly to get to some of the cooler stuff. Normally I would be playing on slow, only speeding up for minute moments when I wanted to do something specific. And we don't actually have access to parks yet, because you need to reach your population of 1,500, and we're at 12:45, and actually losing people per month. They move in and out of the city. So it's not just you build buildings and people come in, like it is in other simulation games. They're based on cities. I'm trying not to make the reference. Mostly, though, it's simple. Yeah. So we're going to have to hunt for one of the upgraded buildings to see if we can find one. The mill residence is almost leveled up to level 2. It'll start giving us a little bit better taxes and all that sort of stuff. It looks like all these buildings are getting there. That's actually the district that we've created. I believe, though, we have expanded the district. So what you do is you go into the main tool, the district's planning tool. You can actually set different sizes of the brush. I just like the big one for when I'm doing this sort of stuff. By clicking inside an existing district, you can expand it out. So we're missing a little bit of this district. Clicking inside lets us create a little bit more space. And if you wanted to create a different district, you can actually overlap them and push them back and forth, but a district can only exist on its own. You can never have overlap of two different districts. Specifically because you can set them to be a certain type of thing, and then if they overlap, they'd try to do both, and it would get really confusing. And the game's logic is fairly solid, all things considered. And when we look at pollution, you can actually see our water is starting to get a little polluted near this sewage outlet pipe. And the direction of water does matter. You never want to put an intake downstream from a sewage outtake. That would just be bad in a lot of ways. But on to a different topic entirely, because I'm scatterbrained today, and that's how it's going to work. Probably going to start streaming some Warframe stuff on Sundays. Been really getting into the game, and thanks to Agnew and Will, Chaplin, and a new guy that we met who goes by the name of Rock and Raffle. Yeah, I kind of like his name. He's an awesome dude, and, well, I've been hanging out with them a lot, and we've been playing a lot of Warframe. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm not going to lie, I'm slightly addicted to the game. It's got a simple concept, but they're always adding new stuff. So, that might be a thing on Sundays. Sunday is not a guaranteed day for it, I'm still working all of that out. But I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more on the streaming side of things. We do have XCOM that comes up on Fridays, except for the Fridays where I am deathly ill and about to die. And thanks again to Chaplin for covering for me when I'm trying to, you know, not pass out just by standing up. So, it's going to be about the same time, 3:30 Pacific Standard. Seems to work out okay. I mean, it's early mid-afternoon for me, because I am on the west coast of Canada, of course. It's actually kind of weird. Most of the guys I play Warframe with are all Canadian. Wonder if there's a correlation. But correlation does not equal causation. And maybe I'm just talking to hear myself talk. But anyway, it works out, because it's 6:30 out on the East Coast. And I have friends in both time zones. It should work out fairly well. And we'll be trying to get up to the point where we can get a bunch of people together and do some of the more intense stuff in the game. We've been doing some of the Plains of Eidolon, we've been doing some other cool stuff. But there's one thing we have yet to get into, and that is the 8-man plus. I guess you'd call them instances, but that's not really the right word. It's these specialized keys that you can use to unlock really, really difficult content that is designed for groups of 8, groups of 10, groups of 16. We're working towards them right now. We've tried to unlock the keys a little bit. We're pushing for it. And of course, if you guys want to join us in Warframe, Thorium Draymond is my name, all one word, capital T, capital D. I swear I can talk. But just hit me up in game and we'll see what getting you in there. Of course, Will and Agnew are always around and they're great guys. It's kind of funny that we met through a joke, us and Mr. Rock and Raffle. That would be a weird curve. That looks better. I instantly knew that he was Canadian, not to get into the stereotypically Canadian jokes, but he asked about the etiquette of asking someone to help him level his weapon up in what equates to the local chat. Yeah, that pretty much told me all I needed to know. And I was like, you just did. So he came, hung out. He's a great guy. And it's been fun hanging around with him. So we'll see how it goes from there. We'll see it being an issue. Then again, I'd rather look for the good in people. Which is why I had the P.S.A. at the start of this week's video. I can't believe that stuff. Just stop propagating it. I said I wouldn't rant. It just really annoys me. We are almost up to the population to grow our city to the next point. Got a lot more commercial houses. Or commercial houses? I can think and I can speak. I swear. It's not always this bad. It just seems to be that bad today for some reason. But if you're laughing with me or at me, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're laughing, you're having fun. And having fun is the whole point of gaming, so I don't mind. I'd actually be more annoyed if you weren't laughing and having fun. So there's that. Let's throw down some commercial, some actual commercial. Now we have some houses that people will move into and need jobs. Again, this is not really the best way to build up a city. The houses here are going to get a little annoyed by the noise pollution, but there's going to be a lot of traffic. It works out in the end. And there are bigger roads that you do have access to off the start. Each one of these tabs is an extra set of lanes. So this is 2. Well, this is 2. This is 4, 6, and then highways. Or 4, 8? 6. And then highways. And you can put down some really cool things like circles. And they do snap to the grid, so let's just toss one down for the lulz. And now we've got Tiny Town. So parks and buildings, or parks and plazas, level 2 unique buildings. We can put a smoking pet ban, all that sort of stuff on. It's pretty cool. And you guys saw the schools out thing. There is actually a reason to not have citizens become educated, and that's if you're going for a more low-key city, you want to do a lot of industrial. It does make sense to have some nearby people who aren't as educated. It seems like stereotypical and kind of tragic, but it's the way the game's set up. Alright, so this park creates a little bit of noise pollution, does attract some visitors, but it makes everybody around it happy. Unlike a lot of games, these parks are actually fairly large. And the cool thing is if you really don't like how a park is set up, or a building is set up, or anything is set up, you can go into a custom creation tool that comes along with the base game. It's not a mod, it's not anything like that. And you can build your own parks, plazas, structures, churches, chapels, all that sort of stuff. Now it looks like we're starting to run a little low on power. So now normally, that would be a devastating thing. Yeah, we're pretty much capped out. So what we're going to do is swap our info view over to wind. Where it's darker, there's more wind. And we're going to set up a couple of wind turbines. There's actually an achievement to do this all based off of clean green energy. Big wind turbines, the bane of small birds. Sorry, it just reminds me of a chapter in a book that I really love. It's part of the Legacy of Dritz series. It's about an invisible magical wall to the Harple's residence. Harple? Yeah, it's Harple. That word's gonna come out just all goofered up. It's an invisible wall that just has painted on signposts, or fence posts. It's pretty entertaining. I won't say any more than that, because if you haven't read it yet, please do go read it. It's by R.A. Salvatore, and yeah, he's a great author. I love the entire saga. Of course, we just got a little bit more to do. So let's make a second thoroughfare by going to regular roads. You can build one-way roads, of course. Let's take it from here. We'll go freeform. So we'll curve out to here, and we'll curve in there. Nice, gentle little curve near the end. It's actually really ugly, but we're not going to go with that. Now we have a roundabout. Second way for people to get across the city, town, village, whatever we've created thus far. We'll extend this out a little bit. And toss down some more industrial zones. So now comes the inevitable time. Do I recommend this game? If you're into city builders and you want something different from the ubiquitous reference that I've tried and failed to make a dozen times over during this, then yeah, I would suggest it. The reason I would suggest it is, as you go on and you get access to more and more of the text in the game, it just seems and feels a lot different than the SimCity franchise. It's not so different as is Banished, per se. Banished being another city builder that's set in a different time period. But it's different enough that you can feel where each game does well and where each game is different. The really cool part is when you get into the transit lines, which you need a population of 2,600. We're not going to get to that today, unfortunately. But you can set up your own bus lines, monorails, subways, blimps. Yes, blimps. You can have blimp taxis. You can have taxis. You can even get up to the point where you have entire transit systems across your city that interlink with one another. There's a monorail to bus station, a bus to train station, all these sorts of really cool things. And the trains are here. Can't really see them that well for all this, because we don't have access to them yet. But the rail system is part of the game. And eventually you can build up and build a train network as well. So it does work out in the end. So if I had to give a yes or no answer on this, I would say yes. If you're into city builders, if you're into management games, if you're into anything like that, you will get a lot of entertainment out of this game. I know my time on Steam doesn't really belie the fact that I've put a lot of time into it, but I pick it up whenever I'm really, really frustrated with other things, and it mellows me right out, because that's what I do when I'm frustrated. I go into city builders and have some fun. And of course, watching all the little animations from your fire trucks and all your other service vehicles going around is great. It's awesome. It's tons of fun. But with that, guys, I think that's a good place for I can talk. I swear I can talk. That's probably a good place to end for this week. So if you liked the video, please consider hitting that like button. If you'd like to join up with the 232, be part of our community, just hit that subscribe button and make sure you turn your notifications on so you don't miss when a new video goes up. Remember, guys, life is a game, so play to win. And until next time, take care.